Hi, I'm Dr. Mel from justmillit.com, and today I am comparing the NutriMill Harvest stone grain mill to the Mockmill stone grain mill. Now it's a bit of an unfair advantage for the Mockmill because I have the professional 200 version, but stay tuned because this Thanksgiving I'm going to be comparing the Mockmill 100 to the NutriMill Harvest. With that said, let's get started. We're going to start with the sound that each mill makes when we turn it on and the stones touch. Okay, Mockmill. NutriMill. At first observation, the Mockmill seems to be a slightly quieter, lower pitch for some reason. Not really sure why, but I do notice that difference. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna mill a little bit of hard wheat at the point where the stones touch, which is the starting point for both mills. I'm just gonna do a handful of kamut, since that's what I have the mill right now. And a handful of kamut for the NutriMill Harvest. This is the Mockmill. This is the NutriMill Harvest. Side by side, I can barely tell a difference between the two. This one may be a little bit coarser. Can you tell the difference? Harvest, Mockmill. Mockmill, Harvest. It is very close. Very, very close. I really have a hard time telling. This is not the coarseness that I want to run my grain through for my Italian bread. I want it to be finer than that. And so that's just the starting point. We're going to examine what are the points and what do they sound like when we're there, because I think people want to know that. And that may be one of the misconceptions of one mill being better than the other. Because I always hear, oh, this mill mills the finest flour more than the others. And I don't know that I believe that. I want to see that myself. All right, so I'm going to start with the Mockmill and mill a little bit of this flour. That's what it sounds like. I'm going to back that off a little, as I usually do at the end of milling. I don't want to damage my stones at all, so at the very end, I back my stones off, just like that. I did not have my video camera on. Both of these milled incredibly fine flour. Some of this is kamut. That said, the pitch on the NutriMill Harvest is higher, somewhat louder than the Mockmill. So if that is an issue for you, then you may want to stick with a Mockmill. if stone mills is where it's at. That said, they both ground fine. And I don't know why, but this NutriMill has a bit of a rubber smell when I crank down the mill. And I did check to see if, here, I'll show you what I'm looking at. I cranked it down to see how the stones did with that, because I really cranked it. And they are good. They're great. They did not glaze at all, which I kind of was afraid that they might, just from some things that I've seen. Now, what I suspect, because I have to crank this one down a lot more than I do this one to get the same fineness of the flour, I suspect that there's a little bit more of a mechanism that gives here in the stones, and that's why you might have to crank it down more. I am not totally sure, but that is something that I noticed. And I just love how this comes on and off to see the stones. For the Mockmill Professional, or the Lino, if you have the Lino, you just keep turning counterclockwise until it comes up, and then you lift your stone, and here, let me dump that flour out, and here's my stones there, also not glazed. Another difference, see the stone? See how there's little screws here in the mechanism? The NutriMill doesn't have that. And then to get this back on, you're just gonna keep screwing it on in a clockwise fashion until you get to the right point. One of my pet peeves with this mill, this type of mill, the Lino or the Professional, is that 0 is here, but I have to crank mine all the way back to here to get the stones to tap over time. And they tell you that, like, oh, it'll change. Don't go by the numbers, go by the sound when the stones tap. But that is annoying, I will say that. But it's a beautiful mill and it works very well. And I would say the same thing about this one. Just that there's a pitch difference, and I probably had to turn this about from here to, I'd say maybe there. So what, a quarter of a turn or less to get it to be nice and fine, just as fine as the Mockmill. So I hope that helps.